Actually, I was walking to my work 2 days ago, and it was extremely freezing. And all what I was thinking about was to come to office as soon as possible and to have a hot cup of tea. And I imagine how I will feel myself for example, on the North Pole. And I realized that it will be for me a bad idea. Actually, in fact, there are some rules that can help you to survive in cold conditions. I believe that Roald Amundsen knew them very well. Roald Anderbrek Rerin Amundsen was born in 1872 in a family of Norwegian ship owners, in a family of captains in Borg. His parents were Jens Amundsen and Hanna Sakloklush. Roald was the fourth boy in the family, and his mother wanted him to avoid the family maritime trade and encouraged him to become a doctor. This promise Amundsen kept until his mother died when he was 21. He promptly quit university and for life at sea. Amundsen had a hidden lifelong desire, inspired by Fridtjof Nansen's crossing to Greenland and Franklin's lost expedition. He decided on a life of intense exploration of wilderness places. By his own words, he said, "It's amazing that the most attractive for me was the description of hardships experienced by Franklin and his companions from the whole story. In me was born strange intention to feel the same sufferings one in my life. I also wanted to suffer for my work, not in the salty deserts in the way to Jerusalem, but in the icy north on the way to a broad knowledge of unknown before the great desert." So my first question is, could you dare to start trip to unexplored regions of the world? And I would like Aselia. Where is Aselia? I think you are. I would like Aselia to answer this question. So come here. Could you dare to start a trip to unexplored region of the world?
Of course, why not? I'm very interested in exploring something new, something wild, and even there are lots of even there might be a lot of dangerous situation. Even I might be eaten by somebody, and so on and so forth. And one thing I would like to bring some things with me, like food, like clothes, and friends. It would be interesting to do with my friends, to be surrounded by people with the same interests. And yes, I would love to explore new parts of the world, new unknown parts of the world.
Thank you very much. Let's continue. Since 15 years old, Amundsen started a Spartan regime for himself. Strict diet, exercises, sleep outdoors even in winter, regular ski trips in the period from November to April. In his own words, Amundsen never liked football, but regularly played the game in order to train his body and teach it to the constitution. In 1892, Amundsen passed a medical examination, at the conclusion of which was written, height 180 centimeters, the volume of the chest on the exhale 87 centimeters, and on the breath 98 centimeters. Someone who saw Amundsen at that time called him the last Viking. Amundsen joined the Belgian Antarctic expedition as a first mate. The expedition, led by Adrian Gerlach, using the ship Yadykar, became the first expedition to winter in Antarctica. The Yadykar, whether by mistake or design, became locked in the sea at Alexander Island, west to Arctic Peninsula. The crew endured a winter for which they were poorly prepared. By Amundsen's own estimation, the doctor for expedition, the American Frederick Cook, probably saved the crew from scurvy by hunting the animals and feeding the crew fresh meat. In case where citrus fruits are lacking, fresh meat from animals that make their own vitamin C contains enough of vitamin to prevent scurvy and even partly treat it. This was an important lesson for Amundsen's future expeditions. So my next question is, what do you think? Is it important for national leader, for example, president of country, to have a spirit of pioneer, and why? And I think Paolo can answer to my question very well.
Good evening. I'm happy that this question comes to me as I'm Belgian by nationality, so I know this story. But you have to repeat the question to me. I didn't really get it.
So the question is, what do you think? Is it important for national leader, for example, president of country, to have a spirit of pioneer, and why?
Spirit of pioneer, yeah. It's within you.
I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. That's how they're rated in Italy. But, I think it's very important to have that kind of spirit in a country because Kazakhstan is quite an example for this because it gives identity to the people. It gives identity to a country. For example, when you were telling this story, I was sitting there being proud of being a Belgian. I'm not a real Belgian because I'm Belgian. I'm not a Belgian by birth, but still, I relate to that story. And hey, that's my country, you know. Pick me, pick me. And yes, and probably, and I hope it will be the same for you. If you will go abroad, you will represent Kazakhstan with these kind of stories, you know. Okay.
Thank you.
That's what I want to say.
Amundsen planned next to take an expedition to the North Pole. By the way, here is a picture of my hero. He found it difficult when he heard that in 1909, Americans Frederick Cook and Robert Peary had claimed to reach the North Pole as a result of two different expeditions. He decided to reroute to Antarctica. He was not clear about his intention, and the Englishman Robert Scott and Norwegian supporter felt misled. Scott was planning his own expedition to the South Pole that year, using the ship Fram, which means forward. At Madeira, Amundsen alerted his men that they would be heading to Antarctica and sent telegram to Scott, notifying him simply. Back to inform you, Fram proceeding Antarctica. So here's my next question. Imagine, how will your life continue if you discover something in your life? So I don't know who I can call.
Go.
Not with the speaker role.
Maybe any.
No.
Anyone who's courageous enough.
Point.
Then you have to pick
Point. So maybe you.
the names.
Names.
Any volunteers?
Yes, any volunteers, maybe someone wants.
Terry.
Me?
Yes.
How can I see volunteer?
Okay, what's the question?
Okay, I will repeat for you.
Excuse me. How do you spell your name?
T-E-R-R-I. That's it.
So the question is, imagine, how will your life continue if you discover something?
Okay, so if I were to discover something,
Yes, and
what would it do to my life?
yes.
Well, I guess it would depend on what I discovered. I've just discovered that I feel uncomfortable in front of a load of people. Despite the fact that I stand in front of loads of students every day, kids and that, and suddenly they're adults and I'm scared. But what would I feel? Well, I've discovered what it's like to live in a country where I don't speak the language. And it has made my life continue differently. Because as I walk around through Kazakhstan, I find that it's like walking around, for me, in silence. Because in my own country, the radio plays and I hear, oh, and now Top of the Pops, da 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 da, and I can hear it. And I walk past people, I can hear them going, oh, did you hear about Albert? Oh, he's awful. And then you walk through and somebody will be going, oi, excuse me, taxi, and I can hear all of that. Now, I just hear, la, 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 la. And so I've discovered what it's like to live in a world where you don't speak the language. And it's very, very quiet. Challenging. Yeah, especially when you get in one of those taxis.
So, the team returned to. I'm sorry. In 1925, Amundsen took two Dornier Doge flying boats, N24 and N25, to 87th degree in north. It was northernmost latitude reached by plane up to that time. The aircraft landed a few miles apart without radio contact. Yet, the crew managed to reunite. The N24 was damaged. Amundsen and his crew worked over 3 weeks to clean up airship to take off from ice. They shoveled 600 tons of ice. In the end, 6 crew members were packed in the N25. They returned triumphant when everyone thought they had been lost forever. In 1926, Amundsen and 15 other men made the first crossing of Arctic in the airship Norge, designed by Nobel. They left Spitsbergen on 11th of May in 1926, and they landed in Alaska 2 days later. The Norge expedition was the first to the North Pole. Amundsen and Oscar Wisting were the first men to reach its geographical pole by ground or by air. So my next question is, if you are a member of expedition to, for example, North Pole, what are you ready to do to survive? Janara. Where is Janara? Ah, here.
My miss.
Okay. Gulnara. Miss. Ah. So,
it's very hard to imagine that I would be on that trip because I'm like so scared of this kind of stuff. I would never take a trip somewhere like North Pole. But if I am, I think I would be happy to be cooking because I'm a good cook. I would be happy to take care of children because I'm good with the kids. Probably just try to keep a positive atmosphere on the ship and kind of, motivate people to keep going and, that kind of stuff. I don't think I can do anything else, honestly.
Roald Amundsen was never married and never had a family and children. Most of his life he had expedition and lengthy lecture tour around the world. His home for many years was kept by Old Norse Betty. Amundsen has long-term relationships with 3 women. All of them were married. So my next question is, what do you think? Is it important for explorer to have a family? Sorry.
Last question.
So, Darkhan.
important. I think because if you explore something, I think most important is know your competence in area what you explore. I think that's all.
Okay, thank you very much. In conclusion, I would like to say that Amundsen was an origin explorer of polar regions. He led the Antarctic expedition to discover the South Pole in December 1911, and in 1926 he was the first expedition leader to be recognized without dispute as having reached the North Pole. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for interesting table topic. So now look at the board. We have 5 people: Asilia, Paula, Terry, Minara, and Arkan. You'll have 1 minute just discuss in groups and choose one of them. Who do you think was the best table topic master speaker?